Good evening, and thank you so much for coming. My name is Mr. Miller, the orchestra director here at the Melrose Public School System. Before we begin our concert with the youth orchestra performance, we've invited a very special guest here this evening who's going to say a few words before we begin performing. As many of you know, we have been participating in a composer in residence program this entire semester, and which will be leading into next year as well. So before our concert, we've invited composer Mr. Robert Bradshaw to say a few words about his experience with the students.
Hello everyone. So before I begin, being a composer and someone who can never be an orchestra, right? No matter how much music you write, you can't be the performers who perform your work. It's really special to get to work with wonderful students like we have on the stage this evening, all semester long, and all that's going to happen next year. We'll talk about in just a second. So I would like to thank the administration and the staff, and of course Mr. Miller, and all of these wonderful students for welcoming me into the community and being such incredible hosts the entire semester. So could we please give them a hand? Now, I don't want you to think this is all just fun and games. We have been having a good time, but we've also been working really hard too. The point of this past semester has been to introduce the concept of composition to the students, because although we grow up in a community, our entire world of education, filled with creativity, we write and we sculpt and we paint and we sing and we play, we rarely compose. So it's very alien to our American educational system. So to have a project like this is extremely special because it introduces students to something that they are absolutely capable of doing, but they don't necessarily know that they can. So we try and look inside music. All semester long, we listened to music, we talked about music, we played music, we took it apart, we took little simple melodies and used compositional devices to modify it, to learn how composers alter the music that they write. And it's been a really wonderful experience, but that's only phase one. This project has 3 phases to it. The second phase is equally exciting because as we've been working together over this semester, the students have also been composing themselves. And very soon, Mr. Miller is going to share their compositions with me. Now, composition usually is a very specific process. You have 1, 2, 3, a few ideas, and you develop them. In other words, you have a melody, you express that melody, and then you do something to it. You make it higher, faster, softer. You do something. And then you come back at the end and you play that melody again, and you say, hey, do you remember that melody? Oh, here it is. That is not what our project is about. Every single student in the all of the ensembles, everyone on stage here, plus all the other ensembles, have been encouraged to compose a piece of music and submit it for this composition. So starting in the summer and all summer long, it'll be my job to take all of those different ideas and put them together into one composition for each level ensemble for us to play. So if you can imagine, it's like an enormous musical jigsaw puzzle. It's not 1 or 2 ideas. It could be 10, 15, 20, even more. All come together. And this concert, a year from now, we're going to play those pieces for you. So I hope that you'll be here, and everyone here will be here, and we'll all explore this wonderful music that the students on the stage will be creating. The third phase of the project is where I get to come back, which is really fun because I love Melrose. This has been just so much fun coming to the school. And we rehearse it together, and we talk about it, and the students get to hear their music coming to life, and they participate in the process. And that is really, really exciting for me, because I want them to take ownership. I want them to know that this is their work that they'll be presenting, and it's not something that happens very often at all. So thank you again to Mr. Miller, to all of the incredible students that I've enjoyed working with this semester. I look forward to coming back a year from now and presenting the pieces that the students have composed.
very much. This next tune that we're playing, Fiddlin' Favorites, combines three different well-known fiddle tunes, the Little Brown Jug, Buffalo Gals, and the Wabash Cannonball. It's been a nice example and a great chance to see different types of melodies getting put together in a medley style. A nice chance as we continue talking about the composition process, how these different pieces were fit together by this composer. Enjoy Fiddlin' Favorites. Just a few quick things before we move into our final piece, Dragon Hunter. Youth Orchestra is really a great ensemble and a great opportunity to bring together students from all throughout the district. It's a great first playing opportunity for elementary school students joining an orchestra. It's also a really nice opportunity for the older students, the middle and the high school students, to be able to participate, to continue passing on their love and passion for music with some of the other younger students, and make connections between all of the schools. Just quickly before we move on to the last piece, I'd like to have all of our high school and middle school students stand up to be acknowledged for all their hard work and help. Students volunteer their time all throughout the year, and this ensemble wouldn't happen without them. So very appreciative. Youth Orchestra is also taking these pieces on tour next week, going to a couple of the elementary school students to elementary schools to share this music with the other students in those schools. Every year we cycle through and rotate to different schools. So you should have all received the paperwork, but on Tuesday these students should be here at 8 a.m. so you can get on the buses to head over to Horace Mann and Roosevelt. After this piece, we will be making as quick of a transition as we can to the middle school orchestra. Please stick around to hear the work that the middle school orchestra students have been putting in. Here is Dragon Hunter. Thank you. Jay Vogan on the anvil. This next piece that we're playing in the middle school orchestra is entitled Night Ride, and it was a great opportunity for the middle school orchestra students to start exploring different extended techniques and different ways to create sounds on their instruments. So you'll hear at the very beginning, we set the scene with all the violins and violas playing harmonics, just lightly touching their string to create a different sort of effect on their instrument, so it's kind of an eerie mood or mysterious setting. Enjoy Night Ride. Thank you very much. How about one more hand for Ryan Marr and Rebecca Keith? That was a fun one to work on and a great one to practice telling a story through music and really trying to paint a picture of this caravan out in the desert. A lot of fun to kind of close your eyes and imagine as you're playing what scene you're setting. This next piece that we're going to be playing is our 8th grade only piece, music from Game of Thrones. Each year the 8th grade orchestra talks about and votes on what they want to work on as their class piece to perform. And this was it for this year, so it's been a lot of fun, a lot of good energy in this class, and we have some added percussion added by my student intern, Maurice Svoboda, who will be helping us out once we get everything set in the back. Thank you very much, and enjoy Game of Thrones. While we're getting this all set up here, just a quick note. In the second half of the performance, I encourage you all to stick around to listen to the high school orchestra both the high school string orchestra and the high school symphony orchestra. A lot exciting and hard work that went into some great music in the second half as well. We will be starting off the second half with a great little video preview overviewing the entire composer in residence project that we've done. You'll see some familiar faces from the youth orchestra, some from the middle school orchestra, and from the high school orchestra. We'll be showing that directly after the intermission, followed by a piece by Mr. Bradshaw, which the high school orchestra is performing this year. Not one that he wrote for us, but one that was premiered last summer at the Endicott College Summer String Music Festival up at Endicott College. So that'll be right after intermission. Hope to see you all sticking around for that. And I think we're good to go. Now we can enjoy Game of Thrones. We are fortunate here in Melrose to have such a strong love and support for music throughout the community. Melrose is home to the oldest, continually running, all-volunteer orchestra in the country, with the 2017-2018 season being the Melrose Symphony Orchestra's 100th season. About 2 years ago, we started brainstorming ideas for how the Melrose Public School Orchestra program could help to celebrate this historic anniversary season. We wanted to come up with a way to connect all of the various age groups in the orchestra program while also connecting to the community around us. I had heard and played music by Mr. Bradshaw in the past and thought, what a great way to help celebrate this anniversary by commissioning a brand new piece of music to be written for the Melrose Public School Orchestras. We ended up taking it to the next level by bringing Mr. Bradshaw in as a composer in residence over a 1.5-year time period.
So the collaborative composition project involves 3 basic areas. The first is we have to develop a relationship between me and the students with their peers. In this case, in this type of project, we are going to each create something and combine it all together. So we have to be comfortable with music sounding different than we originally thought of. But it's only the beginning of the process, because once things are submitted, then they have to be put together. So that's my part of the project, where I'm composing and taking all of the different ideas and creating one piece of music to play. And then we have the rehearsal process, which is very different than a normal rehearsal process, because people are going to be finding their pieces of music in the work that we're performing, and it's a really unique experience for students. The collaboration of the composer, the conductor, the performer, the audience. In other words, most of the time, people who are studying music, you say you're in an ensemble and you're practicing with the orchestra every week, you're in the ensemble, you're with the same people, you're in the same section, you have the same director. You develop the ability to collaborate in that situation very well. The place where students lack the most in collaborating is with the composer, because most of the music that they play is going to be sheet music on a stand. And they don't really look beyond that. They don't really think about the intent. Why are those markings on that piece of paper? And so by doing a project like this and making them the composers, we then create a situation or an environment where they are thrust into the collaborative creative process as well as the performance. With over 20 years of doing projects like this, I've never had a project like this one. And I think that it's likely that it's going to continue to be one of the most unique projects I've ever worked on. Here, we get to work over a long time, and that develops a completely different relationship between all of us and the piece that we're going to create.
Over this coming summer, Mr. Bradshaw will take these various submissions, work his magic, and combine them into our final piece.
My composition, I really like taking music that's already been written but changing it up a little. So the music that I am submitting is from my piano piece that I'm working on, but I turned my entire book upside down while I was practicing and tried to read the music that way.
A lightning storm inspired me to write my composition.
Well, mainly it was just like a lot of things that were just like bouncing around in my head. Like I'd just think of like different things, different places, just pick up different snatches of music, put it together. And I had a bit of submission.
It's very often that these projects are reduced to a very short period of time for the composing. And this way I get to think about the ideas over the summer and bring it back in the fall. And then we have time to work on it then, because we're not even performing it at that time. We have time to rehearse throughout the year and performing it in the spring.
He will be writing one movement for the youth orchestra, one movement for the middle school orchestra, one movement for the high school orchestra, and one movement for all of the ensembles combined. We will receive the parts in the fall of 2017 and rehearse them to perform at our spring orchestra concert in May 2018.
My experience at Melrose has been exceptional. Mr. Miller has put together an incredible program for his students. The students have been receptive and helpful and working really hard in all of the ensembles. The administration has been incredibly supportive. This is exactly the environment that we hope for students, a chance to go outside, to do something different than they do every single day and really learn from it. And Melrose has opened that door so wide, it's just been a joy to be here.
This whole project coincides with the 100th MSO season to help celebrate our wonderful city of Melrose. We are so grateful for the funding and support from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, Melrose Cultural Council, Messina Fund for the Arts, Melrose Education Foundation, and the Victoria McLaughlin Foundation, which helped make this project a reality.
Thank you very much, and sorry for those technical difficulties. I will be distributing that video which you just watched. I'm free to watch again at home and share with friends and family and spread the news around town about this really exciting project that we're doing here in the schools. Now I'd like to introduce our narrator for this next piece, Down at the Sea and Ships, Dr. Kim Talbot, Director of Global Education.
There once was a man from Nantucket. It's no joke. Of course, there were many men from Nantucket, but this man was unlike any other. In fact, you may already have heard of him. His name was Captain George Pollard, Jr. Pollard was captain of the Essex, the Nantucket whaler that was attacked and sunk by an angry sperm whale. It's true, Pollard captained the ship that inspired Herman Melville to write one of the greatest books of all time, Moby Dick. Believe it or not, that isn't the end of Pollard's long and remarkable yarn. After floating on the Pacific for months, even resorting to eating his cousin to stay alive, you heard me right, Pollard was rescued and returned to Nantucket aboard the Two Brothers. One of the most unlucky sailors to ever take to the high seas, it was aboard that very ship that Pollard would face tragedy a second time. Without further ado, so begins our woe-begotten tale. level one said of Pollard, "To the islanders, he was a nobody. To me, the most impressive man, though wholly unassuming, even humble, that I ever encountered." Only 4 days after leaving Nantucket, the Essex was struck by a sudden storm. Unimaginably, she rolled almost 90 degrees. 90 degrees! It must have been terrifying. 2 whaleboats were lost, and a 3rd was damaged. Captain Pollard ordered his crew to return to Nantucket, but his officers dissented. They persuaded him to continue on, and he reluctantly agreed. This wouldn't be the last time Pollard would be persuaded to go against his own judgment. After a difficult trip around Cape Horn, being damaged beyond repair by the whale, the crew of the Essex abandoned ship. Pollard wasn't even on board. He had been fishing, returning to find the ship capsized. With a few whaleboats and 60 days of provisions, he ordered the crew to make for the Marquesa Islands, 1,200 miles to the west of their position. Once again, his officers disagreed with him, and Pollard gave in to their arguments, so instead, they headed south. Near starvation, the crew made it to land, but the small island didn't provide enough food to sustain them. They had to set out to sea again. This time, it was Pollard's decision to leave. What happened to those who stayed behind? Well, they were rescued a few days later. Things continued to turn for the worse. Low provisions, sickness, and death were their constant companions. This is when the true tragedy of their trip began. As crew members died, the remaining sailors resorted to cannibalism to survive. When only 4 men remained, it was proposed that they draw lots, and 1 man would be killed to sustain the others. Pollard refused. It's one thing for a man to die on his own, but another entirely to murder someone. However, Pollard gave in to the other men's wishes, and they drew lots. 1 for the man who would die, and 1 for the man to do the deed. It is in this way that Captain George Pollard Jr. lost his cousin, Owen Coffin? An ill-fated name, don't you think? Pollard made his way around Cape Horn and, second time, headed up the west coast of South America. They were sailing in consort with the Maria when a terrific storm struck. The ships were separated and the two brothers struck a reef. Stunned by the disaster and his remarkable misfortune, Pollard stood his ground, refusing to abandon ship. The crew panicked. They were surrounded by the ocean, breaking against the hull, and the ship was beginning to come apart. Pollard gave in to the crew, calling out, "Abandon ship! Abandon ship!" Clinging to the small boats, the crew waited out the storm, praying for the break of day, and that the Martha hadn't been lost too. On this day, the sea took no toll of human life, and the entire crew of the two brothers was rescued. By way of the Hawaiian Islands, Pollard made his trek back to Nantucket. And so we come to the end of our tale. They say once you set sail, salt water runs through your veins, and you can never again find rest on dry land. Waves lap the shore, whispering of hulls plays across the top of the sparkling sea. A cool summer breeze tugs at your heart as you yearn to watch the sails billow, propelling you farther and farther from the hot ground that tugs at your feet like lead weights. The only way to find solace is to chart a course across the great rolling breast. But alas, Pollard remained. He never captained the ship again. And for the rest of his life, at the end of each and every day, he paced to and fro as the island's night watchman.
as we have a quick set change here, we're getting ready to bring up senior bassist Jacob Kaler. Jacob has been a very active member of the entire music department for his entire time here at Melrose High School, performing in the high school orchestra, also performing in the Melrose Symphony Orchestra, the marching band, as an active member of the drama program, and also as a multiple-year member of the Northeastern Massachusetts Music Educators Association Junior District Festival. So we're happy to bring up Jacob Kaler to play the elephant. Before our final piece of the evening, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge all of our seniors, string seniors who performed that beautiful rendition all by themselves of A Chopin Farewell, and then also our band seniors who are joining us for these symphony pieces. A really big senior class this year, one that we're really going to miss. Thank you so much, all of you on stage, for all of your hard work and your time in these ensembles, both orchestra and band. And good luck to the band students in their concert this Friday at Memorial Hall. Band Pops. Go ahead out and support them, 7:15, I believe. So in the violin section, let's hold applause till the end. Violins, we have Maurice Svoboda, stand. Veronica Lai, Sydney High, Tess Lepler, Josie Coyne, Michaela Finikos. The viola section, Sophia Quincy, Joe Connolly, Jalera Remy, cellos, Ann Morrison and Alvaron, bass, Jacob Kaler. In the winds, flutes, Emily DePietro, also viola, Samantha Shields, Jennifer Cook, clarinet, Chloe Melville, baritone sax, Nate Shue, French horn, Wes Simcoe, Euphonium, Adam Cook. Trumpet, also violin, Tim Corbin. Trombone, J.P. Bullman. Tuba, Nick Vanneau, Sean Hogan. Percussion, Olivia Rittenberg, Tim Broderick. Did I miss anyone? How about a hand for these awesome singers? Also mention just quickly before I let you go for the evening, you should have found an insert in the middle of your program advertising for 2 upcoming fundraisers put on by the Orchestrator organization. The Dockside Restaurant fundraiser a week from tonight. Any takeout or sit-in orders between 5 and 9 help support the whole orchestra program which we've seen before you this evening. And then a save the date for our annual mattress fundraiser coming up in September. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you.